the live stream, doing the stuffs and the things and the stuffs and the things in the live stream, because it's a live stream. In the live stream, it's a kitty just outside the camera view of the live stream, because it's a live stream. Yeah, doing the stuffs and the things and the stuffs and the things. Yeah, because it's a live stream talking about the gods and the atheisms and the non-gods and the non-atheisms, and is God real? Why should we believe in God? Etc., 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 etc. Is there reason to believe in a God? I wouldn't mind if there was.
I was just loafing.
She's just loafing. She doesn't feel good.
She doesn't feel good. She's
Doesn't
sick.
feel good. You're sick, kitty. I wouldn't mind if there was reason to believe in a God or something else out there, you know? Would not mind it. I've said that a few times. I would not mind if there was something else. But, you know, either there is or there isn't. And it kind of looks like there isn't. Just due to a severe lack of evidence. Now, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, but after all this time, with such a severe lack of evidence, it could arguably be seen as evidence for absence. The absence of evidence could be seen as evidence for the absence. Not evidence of, doesn't prove anything, but I don't know. You would expect, or maybe I would expect, and maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe I'm expecting too much out of the all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving creator God of the universe. Maybe I'm just expecting too much out of him, you know? Maybe that's on me. Maybe I'm being too hard on him. Can I get the turtle, please?
No, you don't.
Maybe I'm expecting too much out of this amazing God being. I should be more fair to him somehow.
Why is that open?
What?
Why is that open?
Because I opened it.
Oh.
You need to leave. Nobody likes you. You need to get off this line, you punk. I mean, why would I leave when I get such words of encouragement like that?
I like you.
I mean, you're the first chat. Nobody chatted before you. You're getting the party started. Thank you. Do I have no? Ain't nobody on here, but there's nobody on here but me, and there's no light that came for me. Better be happy. Hi.
Queen Latifah Drew.
Janelle, I don't even know what that second message is. I'm going to be honest with you. You see, you're not the only one. My thing said that there's 14 people watching, 12 people watching.
Nolan's here.
And Nolan's here. And especially, even if there was nobody here, what's wrong with me just sitting here talking to myself for an hour? I know that's why I might leave you ugly rose. You all got roses in your house. Who's that girl by your side? Because she needs to shut up. Not talking. Like, who asked? Ooh, you're really fun. I like. You're a fun person. Bye. Yeah, no, you're not gonna tell my wife to shut up and stay on my stream. That's just. Sorry, just.
She was telling you to shut up and go away. You didn't give a shit until she said something about me.
Drew has a baddie.
Instantly.
That's how I am. Like, I can take criticism all day, but you start shooting at other people around me, then we're done. Drew has a baddie. Taylor's a bit of a baddie. She can be. She's pretty amazing. She's alright.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, might keep you around a little bit longer.
Just a little bit.
Just a little.
Just a little bit longer.
You know. I mean, it's only been 14 years. Might as well.
14 years that we were.
It's only been
together.
14 years that we've been together. Might as well bump it. We might as well go for 15, you know?
Half our lives.
Yeah.
Half our lives.
We're about half our lives. Good evening, Drew. I have a question. Do you have to get 50 subscribers to go live? No. I think... Do you have to get 50 subscribers to go live? I think in order to go live without restrictions, it needs to be 1,000 subscribers. Apart from that... No, it might be 50. I don't know. I know there's a certain... I can't remember what that number is. I'm going to be honest with you. Because I don't know if you can go live immediately. I know that between whatever the number is and 1,000, you can go live like with restrictions. Like you can only have like a maximum of 50 people in your audience or whatever. 1,000 is when you can go live without like any restrictions or caps or anything. But I don't remember. 50 might be it. I don't remember. I do not remember. A quick Google search would probably help us. Drew, why did you say earlier you don't like bowing down to God? I don't believe he exists, so we can start there. But also, if we're talking about the God of the Bible, I don't really believe in bowing down to a being like that. I don't really like the God of the Bible. Not really my cup of tea. Not really great. Today I actually hit 50, and it says 50, but I guess I have to wait 24 or 48 hours for them to verify that. It might be, and it might also be, especially...
Where could I find? I could be a test. Because I only have 2.
I guess you could look. I don't know.
Where do you go to go live? How do you go live?
I'm mid-conversation.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm mid-thought.
Sorry.
It's
If I could, it would just be that.
No. It's...
I know I probably can't, but...
No, I know you probably can, but... I look at it through YouTube Studio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, my train tracks. You asked me a question as I was making conversation, and no, it's okay. It's okay. I don't think you have Studio. You don't. It's not a bad thing to have. What was I talking about? Because subscribers always fluctuate. People always come and go. So you might be 50 today and then like 49 tomorrow. You know, like it might fluctuate. Like I just hit 1,700 and I've been like dipping below and above that. So, yeah, maybe verification, maybe something to make sure that you stay above 50. I don't know. I do think I remember. Gosh, it was like a year or 2 ago. Because I do not remember. I will subscribe to you, bro. Thank you. What happens after you die? Well, a lot of things happen. They just don't involve you. The world keeps turning. People keep living on. What's left of you will, rot in the ground, or if you want to donate to science, or if you donate, if you're an organ donor, your heart can go to someone who's going to live on. So, stuff can still happen to you and parts of you after you're gone. But your consciousness, the you, the you that's watching me and processing and all that stuff, that seems like it's just going to, cease to exist. The chemical reactions in the brain that cause consciousness, thought, emotion, memory, things like that will just kind of stop. And so from our perspectives, will essentially cease to exist. But the world will continue going. So basically, if I stay at 50 until they verify it, I'm good, even though somebody will back out, right? I don't know. I could see it doing a thing where, if you go down to 49, you'll lose your thing. So just keep doing what you're doing. And I'm sure you'll get it up into a safe zone where it'll get above 50 and stay above 50, and then you should be fine. Like I said earlier, you might have restrictions, like how many, like you might have a max of only 100 people allowed in your stream to watch your stream until you hit this many subscribers, and it'll be like 200. Like there's like restrictions there, and then once you hit 1,000, it's you can have as you can have a bazillion people, you know, watching, even though a bazillion people aren't going to watch you when you have 1,000. I'm lucky to get 10 at 1,700, but yeah. I will be reincarnated. That'd be pretty cool. So what happens after you die? You go blind and then you go somewhere else. Maybe. Hello. I love the idea of reincarnation. I really do. I think that'd be like my favorite. If I had to choose what happens after us, what happens to us after we die, I think I would choose reincarnation. I don't know. And I think, either way, like even if I came back as like a slug that lived for a day, I think that'd be a cool experience. Like, you know, why not? You know, especially if my life is over and like that's the only life I knew I was going to get. If I get like an extra day as a slug, that's just like anything after that is a bonus, right? After you've already ended your life and you didn't expect to get anything else. Anything else is a bonus. You know, I'm sure there are some subpar things that you can be reincarnated as, but hey, you know. Did bro get a cut looking clean, man? I did get a cut. I didn't get the dye. My person didn't have time, so it's just my natural hair color, which is whatever. But what can you do? I can't complain too loudly. The woman who cuts and dyes my hair does it for free, and she just didn't have time today. I'm not going to complain. Still got a free haircut, and probably free dye next time. So
Free bleach.
free bleach, yeah. What are you doing on Halloween? We've been taking my daughter around to relatives' houses to like trick or treat there. Just a candy bucket. They give her some candy. Show off her costume to everyone because we live relatively close to a lot of our family members. So that's what we usually do. She is getting up there in years to where, you know, maybe not this year, but like in coming years, you might have to start thinking about proper trick-or-treating, you know?
Yeah.
I'd have to. The way we live this life is what we're going to come back as. According to some beliefs, yeah. Which, again, I'd be fine with. I don't know if there's... I think I just like the idea of reincarnation. You know, just whatever it turns out to be. I think I like it. Yeah. 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 Hey, cat. Off screen. I would be worried. Like, part of me would love to have a do-over of this life and, like, do things better. But then, like, what if I mess up my chance with Taylor? And then, like, what if, you know, we don't have our daughter? Or, like, we have a different child who I'll love, but, like, it won't be our daughter because I'll remember our daughter from a previous life. I get anxious about that stuff. No, I mean, not really anxious because I don't think it's going to happen, but, like, those are some wrenches that I see in the reincarnation plan. I don't know what gigolo is. I'll come back as a bald eagle. New haircut, who this? Yeah. I think if I had to choose a non-human thing to come back as, I think I would want to come back as a butterfly. Or, you know, a caterpillar and then butterfly. Because my wife and daughter really like butterflies. So I could, like, just fly past them and around them. And they'd be like, it's a butterfly! And it's so pretty. And just, like, bring that little smile to their face one last time. I think I'd rock with that. Drew will be a mercenary in his next life? Maybe. Maybe. Hinduism isn't a religion. It's vast of array of philosophy, traditions, practices, and lives a eternal way of life. Doesn't bond a infinite God or adhere to a specific interpretation of God's infinite nature. Disagree, but okay. I think it is a religion. And it has a god. It has multiple gods, doesn't it? Am I dumb? I mean, I had to ask, so either way, I'm dumb. I don't know who that is. Am I duking it out? You're already setting up fights for me in the next life. I can't even die first. You're already booking appointments for me. Alan Watts. That name. I think I know Alan Watts. I mean, I'm gonna make sure. It's probably not. Yeah, I'm not gonna fight Alan Watts. I'll sit and talk to him. Halle Berry, love you. Just, you're setting me up on dates, you're setting me up on fights. I'm gonna have an eventful next life, is what I'm hearing. It's the timeline. It's the timeline where I don't end up with Taylor, and like I don't care as much, so I just like go. Just me against the world.
If you don't end up with me, you're not gonna care.
More or less. Like you and our daughter. If something happens to you and our daughter, I'm done. I don't care. Not that I don't care about the world or people or whatever, but like I'll be kind of done with life. Not to say I'll leave or anything, but it'll unlock a new character.
Oh God.
Snickers,
I
wait.
don't know how I feel about that.
It'll be pretty sad. Why are you hiding? Why are you hiding, kitten? Snickers has been sick and diarrhea and vomiting all day. Mostly diarrhea all day, but vomited a little bit earlier.
After I give her an anti-nausea pill.
After we give her an anti-nausea pill. So Snickers isn't feeling good. Hopefully it's just something that she ate that she's trying to pass or something.
That would be ideal.
Drew versus cynical Drew. The multiverse collides. We'll finally get Twink Drew unlocked. Maybe. It'll definitely be something. Hopefully we won't have to worry about that. Obviously. Hopefully Taylor and I will live to be very old together. And I'll outlive my daughter. You might get, if we live to be old, and my daughter's moved out, has her own family, so I'm doing my thing, and I lose Taylor to old age and whatnot, you might get an absolute bastard of an old man. You might just get an absolute, just no fucks given, 80-year-old man just tempting death every single day and being a menace to society. That might be me in about, what's math? 55 years. Just be a menace to society. Sneakers. Who left comments this week? I know I haven't been posting very much lately. I really just haven't had time or energy. I feel bad. I've also been just focusing on quality over quantity when it comes to my content. You know, not just making content just to get a video out, making content when I genuinely have something to say. Not just making content just for the sake of making content. So that's already brought down how much content I make, and then, like I said, just time and energy.
Been busy the last month.
I have been busy. Have been very busy. What can you do? Okay. Snickers. Snickers. I was talking to my wife. She gave a weird meow. That our cat, two of our cats are like 10. So they're getting to that age where sometime in the next 5 years probably, they're gonna get sick or something's gonna go wrong with their bodies, and that's like gonna be it.
Well, that looks more solid.
That's gonna be what does it, you know. And that's just what happens, because both of them are considered to be senior cats. So they're getting old. They're getting old. God is and will always be God, if He is God. If He exists. It's crazy to me that how many people just state facts about God. There aren't very, like, just God, well, God is real, and you're going to find out when you die. Will I? Will I? Like, are you positive? Heck, I was at a soccer game at a Christian high school today, and you know, they had everyone stand for prayer, and part of the end of the prayer was like, maybe, you know, run the race as to win so that we can join you in your heavenly kingdom forever and ever with the saints and whatnot. And I'm just sitting here thinking, this is a cult. You know, it's just stuff like that where you think about it. Like when people say we're washed in the blood of Christ, it's like, this is a cult. This is a cult. Bow down and worship and praise. And, you know, follow these rules so that one day we can have our eternal heavenly bliss. We don't have any reason to believe in any of it. But, you know, our book says it. And we gather together and we say these hymns and mantras. And certain religions, you eat the guy. And I'm just like, it's a cult. Especially the washed in the blood thing is like the most culty thing I can think of. It's about the cultiest thing that I've heard come from a not cult. Because I would argue that, you know, Christianity is not a cult. I do think that the main difference, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this can be a conversation or whatever, but I do think the main difference between a cult and a religion is popularity. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Is Islam a cult? I'd say Islam is a religion at this point. But, you know, Christianity, even in the Bible, seems to have started as kind of a little cult religious group that then grew in popularity over time and established itself in cultures and societies over time, to where now we consider it a religion. 'Cause I think the lines between religion and cult are just a little blurred, and I think it's a lot of the time just subject to opinion, the opinion of the people and culture of the time. I think Mormonism or Church of the Latter-day Saints is a great example of that, where yeah, Dale, I saw your message. I just don't always read them. I think Mormonism is a great example of that, to where it's still relatively young and small, so there are arguments about whether it's a cult or its own denomination of Christianity, if it is Christianity, if it's its own religion. Because some people have put forth the argument that it kind of did the same thing that Islam did. It got a new book and branched itself off of the religions that were already there. Technically, that's what Christianity did too. So it could be its own religion. It could be, So I think something that's still relatively young and small, but still is growing and has grown significantly over time. I think that's a great example of where this blurred line is between like religion and cults, because I think Mormonism's like right in there somewhere. How did Christianity grow so big if it was false? How did Islam grow so big if it was false? Why is Judaism still so big if it was false? Why did Hinduism grow so big if it was false? Why did Buddhism grow so big because it's false? Maybe the popularity and the growth of a religion has nothing to do with how true it is. Is that how you feel? What? Are you just upset about the pad? The difference between cult and religion is that my temple is part of a religion, the rest belong to cults. The difference between a cult and a religion is that my temple is part of a religion and the rest belong to cults. Sure, but a lot of people say that. There's a lot of people who say, like, oh, I know. One of my friends has a friend who he talks to, and he brought up, like, the different denominations of Christianity. And she's like, there's no denominations of Christianity. There's just Christians, which she is. She says, there's only Christianity, which is me, and, like, my church. Everyone else is, like, cults or wrong or whatever. And it's like, it's the no true Scotsman fallacy at play.
Kitty.
Hassan, we don't need to call people dumbasses. We can be a little bit nicer. Everything else is correct. Colonism, conquest, bloodshed and manipulation, indoctrination. How many people were just raised Christian? And were just raised not to question it, and just were raised to believe that was just how the world worked, and just rolled with it and carried that with the rest of their lives. And especially if they stayed around communities who believed the same thing. There were kings, people in power, who made Christianity the official religion of their area. There were times like the Inquisition where people were tortured or murdered for not being Christians, or not being good Christians, or not being the right Christians. So, and then you just have this lovey-dovey, you're being saved by this God who loves you and gave his only son for you, and that's emotional manipulation to get people into the fold. Even the music and the lights and stuff at church services play into just interacting with something in your brain that invokes certain emotional responses. It's bloodshed and manipulation is how I got going. What's wrong with someone dying for me? Death doesn't make it a cult. What's wrong with someone dying for me? Death doesn't make it a cult. I didn't say death made it a cult, did I? What's wrong with someone dying for me? Death doesn't make it a cult. I didn't say it did. I said that's part of the manipulation that comes with this religion. And I was raised Christian, so I got plenty of it. And I went to Catholic school, so I got plenty of it in school. Of Jesus, he suffered and died, all of that. There was a crucifix in every room, so the teacher only had to point to this image that we have of a man being publicly executed and say, like, look at how much he suffered for you. And you're going to neglect your prayers. Snickers is eating something. Snickers is eating something.
Hey.
Some dark thing that she's staring at.
Hey.
What is it?
It's a spider. I don't have any kind of shoe or anything.
Just squish it with
I don't have anything, and I don't want to lose sight of it.
squish it with paper towels. Not like that.
Too bad. That's how I'm using it.
Yes. Take paper towel and like squish it.
Legs are twitching.
Yeah. Like squish it with the paper towel. You're using the paper towel in every incorrect way.
I don't care. I don't like spiders.
What was I saying?
I don't like spiders. So I will kill the spider. How
Divine,
I see fit,
you mean
that I don't have
divine?
to touch it.
Divine, you mean divine? Elliot, did you just... It's not Leviosa, it's Leviosa. Or it's not Leviosa, it's Leviosa me? Did I pronounce divine wrong? Eye twitching could be easily Tourette syndrome. It could. I was correcting Dale. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, people misspell stuff in the chat all the time. It's alright. It happens. One of these days, I'm going to misspell atheist in one of my titles because I regularly forget. It's because it breaks the I before E rule, which I know a lot of things do. But theist is what I have to remember. A-the-e, then ist, I-S-T. That's how I've helped myself remember, but I still question myself every time I type it out. And especially because sometimes my autocorrect will change it to the I before E. It's just like, now you're just fucking with me. Like, now you're just confusing me. We're all fifth graders at heart, let's be real. There's probably a lot of truth in that. Probably a lot of truth in that. We're all just grown-up kids. None of us really knows what we're doing. One day we were kids, and the next day we had to figure out how to navigate the world. What do you do with that information? How do you navigate the world? Do I have any held comments recently? No. No recent hidden comments. Nobody spouting nonsense in my comment section and getting shadow realmed. What can you do? What can you do? Jesus died because he was a heretic who received praise and claimed divine authority without having fulfilled any messianic prophecies. I always say when people ask me if I believe that like an actual historical Jesus existed, I don't really know if one did or not, but I always say I don't really have an issue with the idea of a guy making some claims, gaining a following, and getting executed. That's, that's not really anything incredible. The story checks out, challenging religious authority. That's why I like with if Christian nationalism keeps doing its thing, and we become more of a Christian ran country, a country based on Christianity, run by Christian law and whatnot. I would argue, be like Christ in that. Challenge and belittle religious authority. Absolutely mock and belittle. What's the word I'm looking for? That's what I'm looking for. I mean, just shit on. He didn't hold back when he was talking to the religious authorities at the time. And you shouldn't hold back against religious authorities now. And flip some tables while you're at it. And don't be afraid if you get executed. Who knows? Maybe someone will have a religion about you one of these days. Wouldn't that be nice? What do you think about the fact that many ancient writings from all around the world, from different cultures, have an account of a worldwide flood similar to the Bible? What's a worldwide flood? First off. Because flooding is a thing that happens. Florida flooded, a year or two ago because it was having all those hurricanes. Flooding happens all the time. And when you're an ancient civilization who doesn't know what the world is, if you look around and everything is water, the world is flooded. If the city that you live in is underwater, the world is flooded for all you know. So, yeah, floods happen. They're pretty common. I would want to verify how widespread those are, how many different cultures, because there have been some speculations of a great flood around the I think they're Euphrates or something, around like the area where the Bible takes place, and like the Quran and all of that. A great localized flood in that area that many have attributed to some kind of global flood. But yeah, there aren't flood accounts that line up with the biblical flood account. There are many flood stories, but few actually occur in the mythologies at a time, to a scale, or for reasons that match. Yeah, I agree. That's another thing. We could dig into what the accounts are, who all is making the accounts, things like that. How does it debunk it? How does what debunk it? It's also crazy to me, because some of these civilizations, you have to remember, have flood accounts. But they have flood accounts of their civilization that was there before and after. Oh, I'm sorry, you're responding to Hassan. But you have flood accounts from a civilization that account for before and after the flood, where according to the biblical account, those civilizations didn't survive the flood. So if somebody is talking about in their city or whatever, where the city existed, there was a flood, and then it kept existing, that does not align with the biblical story. And that's what you see in a lot of these flood accounts. It's not, oh, I'm a descendant of Noah, and I traveled from this area to this new thing, and remember that flood that happened that one time. No, their flood accounts catered to specific cultures and areas and societies that, according to those accounts, were there before and after the flood. So it doesn't really work with the biblical narrative. It just doesn't work. Also, when you do think about it, it sounds ridiculous. And I know that's not, doesn't debunk anything. But all of the animals in the world got on the ark. Penguins waddled over onto the ark. Everyone. Even the animals that they didn't know existed. Because remember, the people who were writing the Bible did not know that the Americas existed. They didn't know everything on their side of the planet existed. They didn't know about like over half of the planet. So when you talk about global floods, who verified that North and South America flooded? And how would you know what all the animals are? Like, it doesn't. You can tell in the Bible account that it's a very narrow worldview of people who don't know what the world is. I work in I work in agriculture, specifically with livestock. The infrastructure and supply chain required to support even a few thousand animals in confined spaces for even a few hours is absolutely staggering. Oh, yeah. Yeah, when you just think of the logistics of the ark and how much different food you would need on the ark, including animals for the carnivores, doesn't work. It absolutely sounds more like just a mythological story. I can hear myself from the other room. Pretty sure there's a theory of where the ark landed, and honestly, Noah took like all his life building the ark, so he probably separated the animals well. I don't know where in the Bible does it say how long it took him. Evan Almighty is a movie about like a dude, like a modern Noah's Ark type of thing. I haven't seen it. I heard it's alright. Supplying the food and fresh water and keeping the space clean and free of disease is impossible to imagine happening in a wooden ship for a few hundred head. Forget about 2 of each animal. Yeah, it is a nightmare. It would just be a nightmare. And it's just, I don't know. It's anywhere that you look at it. We've already attacked a few different points of the Noah's Ark narrative that just don't work. It's more likely than like the 1 trillion chance of the universe booming into existence. First off, just because you don't understand how something works doesn't mean it has to have been magic or a god or anything like that. Second off, there can be... The argument doesn't make sense to me at all. It seems to be a false dichotomy of either Noah's Ark happened or there was no God. There are other stories of other gods that don't involve a flood narrative. And there are other, maybe a god did create the universe and just didn't have a flood or anything. It's not necessarily... This isn't necessarily just trying to disprove God at this point. This is going after this narrative in the Bible that most certainly did not happen. That does not necessarily equate to, therefore, there is no God ever, anywhere that ever existed. We have absolutely no idea how rare universes are. There are possibly infinite universes. Yeah. Once we get past the Big Bang, we have fucking no idea. And once we get outside the universe, we have no idea. We just don't know. As far as we know, the odds of the universe coming into being and of us coming into being are 100%. As far as we know, it happens. You know, we don't know. We don't know the odds. We have absolutely no idea. Yeah, the arc is absurd. And Noah probably didn't exist. Adam and Eve, Noah, Moses probably did not exist. At least as far as we can see. Oh, interesting. Look at my analytics of the live stream. Most intriguing. Alright, well now I've lost it. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. How do I get back? Hold on. Nope, that ain't it. Hold on. Hold on. Fuck. I made this video. I don't know how to do technology, but I added this video to my favorites. Clear. What am I doing? Anyway, sorry. I clicked buttons that I shouldn't have clicked. I mean, I can click, but I don't know what I'm doing, so maybe I shouldn't. If you were to become Christian, what denomination would you pick? Obviously, Mormonism. I think... I don't know, that's a good question. Asking me now as an atheist who's been through the deconstruction journey, I'd probably say non-denominational somewhere. But I don't know. If I became a Christian or was still a Christian, it might be... Maybe I'd have a different mindset and a different answer for you. I don't know. But right now, I would probably just... I wouldn't mess with the denominations. I think it's okay if we don't understand how the flood happened. It's not the center of Christianity. I just know God made it happen. Well, you know. You know it happened. How do you know it happened? Is your earring new? No, I've had my earrings for a while. I have two. They're just different colors. This one's a little harder to see in the camera. Mormonism isn't Christianity. See, that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. You know, Mormonism is still in that gray area of, like, you know, some consider it a cult, some consider it a separate religion, some consider it a denomination of Christianity. I'd consider it a denomination of Christianity. Because what is a Christian? What's a Christian? I think that's a big, important question. What is a Christian? Because I would say, as a non-Christian, I would say that a Christian is someone who follows the teachings of Christ and follows Christ as their Savior. That's kind of my broad, probably covers most of what people would consider Christian. It could be, you know, if you have a better one, I'd love to hear it. But that's me, you know. So Mormonism does follow the teachings of Christ, does believe that Christ is their Savior. Instead of deconstructing our faith, we should instead remodel our faith when we find a flaw in our belief. You can only remodel it so much when there's so many flaws, though. If it gets to the point where remodeling won't save it and there's just no justification for the belief whatsoever, just go, sometimes it's just a lost cause. Sometimes it's just not going to fix. Not every rundown, abandoned house can be a fixer-upper. Sometimes you just got to bulldoze it. I heard Mormons don't gamble or take any intoxication. I think that's true. It doesn't make them Christ followers. What doesn't make them Christ followers? Just because I've said a lot of things, I don't know what you... Not gambling and such. I don't think that's what Dale was trying to say. I think he was just pointing out a fact about Mormons. Yeah, following Christ is what makes them Christ followers. Kitten. She just keeps making those noises.
Yeah.
She's got an upset tummy.
Good.
She's got an upset tummy. Hi. 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 Okay, you're gonna walk that way. Okay. Yeah, I feel like what would best cover what is a Christian would be following the teachings of Christ, or at least what you interpret to be the teachings of Christ. Because then we get into the whole no true Scotsman thing, where, it's like, this denomination doesn't actually follow the teachings, therefore they're not people who are genuinely following what they believe to be the teachings of Christ, backed by biblical backings. As long as, they're not just pulling something out of thin air. Because I'll admit, Mormons, they take a route with it. They definitely do a thing with it. Which, like I said earlier, it's comparable to what Christianity did to Judaism and what Islam did to Christianity, writing another book and, deviating from the story. But it still kept Jesus as the Messiah. I think that's what makes the difference. It didn't change the narrative that much. I mean, it really didn't even change the narrative. It added to it. It added a... what's what I'm looking for? Some kind of a spin-off or whatever. Like, all this stuff that happens in the Bible is still happening. It's just, like, also, meanwhile, there's this, like Rogue One, like Star Wars Rogue One or Solo Story, like I think spin-off is, like, the only word I can think of, but I want to say there was another word for it, but it's still, like, the Star Wars universe. Like, I don't think Mormonism changed enough to really deviate. All denominations are okay if they accept that Jesus died for our sins and rose again. All we need to do is have faith. Mormonism believes that. Mormonism believes that the resurrected Christ came and visited them and visited, the early Mormons in the United States. So they believe that. And there's talk throughout the Book of Mormon of, this Messiah who's going to die and then come to save them and visit them and whatnot. So it still keeps the script. Because Christianity creates, it takes the Messiah story from Judaism and makes it and twists it and changes it to where like all of the Torah was and the other Old Testament texts, because some Jewish denominations follow more than just the Torah, were leading up to Christianity. It kind of twists and reinterprets them to lead up to Christianity. So it kind of takes it and makes it something new. And Islam does that too. It takes the Bible and it makes it something new. Mormonism just added an extra, side plot. Mormon, as to the gospel, they say you need to have faith and what? Hello, mixed. Here's a fun topic. In those, God forgives sins and offers salvation without Jesus having to die. What's up with that? It's interesting, isn't it? They add more stuff. Mormonism adds more stuff. So that you need to work for your salvation. So there's a lot of denominations within Christianity. This is a huge debate within... Oh, thank you for using that. All right, well, now you're on the carpet. Hey. Well, she wiped most of it on the mat. Good girl. That's a huge debate within Christianity in various denominations and between various Christians. Is it faith? Is it works? Is it both? Is it simply the grace of God? I would argue that the Bible argues that it's both. Because faith without works is dead. It's not just a matter of, I believe and accept Jesus as my Savior, and then I can keep living my life not as a Christian, not following any of the laws of Christianity that Jesus taught us to follow. You need to still follow. You still need to direct your path in your life towards Jesus' teachings. How come not monetized yet? Don't have enough views. Ain't getting enough views. So Elliot, that's not an issue just with Mormonism. That's an issue throughout Christian denominations. Looks like she got most of it.
I really don't see anything on the carpet.
You might hit it up with a quick spritz of Resolve just in case.
She did the most of it on here though. Kind of why I put it here.
To be sure, the Bible arguably says that your works are important. The largest church that believes Christ was the Messiah. The Roman Catholics say you need both faith and works. Works are a byproduct of faith. Jesus himself says you're supposed to follow the laws. Yeah. Never heard of the fruits of the Spirit. But there's still works. You still have to put in work. You still have to do works. Even if works are a byproduct of faith, works still, you will know them by their fruits. You will know them by their works, by what they do. The works part is still important.
Exactly why I put the mat down. I was hoping she'd do something like that.
And she just goes back to loafing in the hallway. Kitchen. Snickers isn't feeling good. The man next to Jesus went into heaven without working, just faith, on the cross. Well, according to one gospel account. In other gospel accounts, the guy just made fun of him. So, according to one or two gospel accounts. I think it was just John, wasn't it? I should know this, but... and he didn't have time to work. There is something to be said about repentance at the end of your life. But then if that guy was allowed to live, he would have been expected to act like a Christian and do works. He did what he could in those last moments.
I hate this.
I remember one teaching in Catholicism. They taught that anyone could baptize anyone in a serious moment. Where, like, if two people are stranded in the middle of the woods, and it's like, Kevin, we're not going to make it out of here. I haven't been baptized. Can you baptize me? If Kevin then baptizes me, and then I die, in the eyes of the church, I was actually baptized. If I make it out, then I would be expected to actually get baptized and continue to live my life as a Christian and following the church and whatnot, following the teachings of Christ and whatnot. So yeah, you're not going to do much works right at the end of your life. Just achieving faith is more than having faith. I got where I am from looking for answers in this book because my faith dissipated, which was a ton of work. Of course, it didn't pan out. Yeah, I got to where I am diving into my studies, trying to strengthen and spread my faith. Strengthen my ability to defend and spread my faith. And I learned too much. What can you do? I saw, you see the man behind the curtain. And it's really hard to put that veil back over your eyes. So what can you do? What can you do? Try to be a good soldier of Christ. Snickers. Snickers. Just loafing again. She gets like little bouts where she like can get up and walk around, and then she just like lays back down. Not feeling good. She doesn't feel good. Her tummy probably hurts.
Yeah, I can imagine.
My poor kitten.
She didn't want to eat.
Huh?
She didn't want to eat.
That makes sense. Snickers? Snickers? Okay. Go do your thing. Have you watched Boots on Netflix? It's a gay marine series. I have not. Step right in your diarrhea wipe. I have not. I've heard of it. I have not seen it. I also don't have Netflix. So what can you do?
Where are you going?
Please watch it. I don't have Netflix. Romans 10:9, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe with your heart that God raised him from the dead, then you will be saved. That's all we need to do. No extra works. So when Jesus was talking about all that stuff that we need to do to inherit the kingdom of heaven, that was more than just believing. We can just ignore him because Paul came and said something else. Was Paul the Messiah, that we should ignore the words of Christ in favor of his words? God himself, in the form of man, speaking, telling us commandments and how we ought to live. We just ignore that because this one verse, even though I'm pretty sure there are other verses in the New Testament epistles that say you also need works, this one cherry-picked verse says that you don't need works, therefore just ignore everything. Jesus said not one jot or tittle of the law should pass until heaven and earth pass away. They should keep following the commandments. That you should serve one another. Love one another as I have loved you. That you should... Catch me on again. The Beatitudes he gave us as a way of living our lives. Telling people to give away their possessions and follow him. To give up their everything, give up their lives and follow him. to name a few things. And also in Romans, some are doomed to be damned no matter what to show us God's wrath and power. Oh yeah. Even Jesus says, narrow is the gate, and few are they who are able to pass through it. I can't remember what exact the words were, but essentially, even Jesus said most people are we're just created to go to hell, just as an example to the rest of everyone. How loving. He loves us so much. Why aren't you circumcised like Jesus? P-Hub it's in your Bible in Old Testament. Pork is forbidden, alcohol is forbidden. Jesus never did anything of this. What? Why aren't you circumcised like Jesus? Is it in your Bible? Actually, the Gentiles don't need to be circumcised, according to the Bible. Which is us, which is non-Jews or non-Jews converted to Christianity. Romans 9 doesn't say that? Okay. I'm so pissed about being circumcised. You know, it's the damnedest thing. What can you do? Circumcision is bizarre, though. The idea of genital mutilation for cultural and religious practices is bizarre and disgusting and disturbing. It's good for your health. Depends on where you, less infection, depends on where you look. I'm 100% serious. I have a scar the rest of my life. We don't need to talk about your stuff. I'm gonna remove that chat. Remove that message. We don't need to hear about what your stuff looks like. Where you look? What do you mean where I look? Elliot, what are you saying? Depending on where you look. Oh, yeah. There are some studies. There are pros and cons to circumcision. But you can be just fine with or without it. It sounded funny. It did sound funny. There are pros and cons. Okay, so if we're using that logic, we should give all female babies double mastectomies to prevent breast cancer before they can consent.
They're not.
Solid logic.
Not born with.
But you can probably take something out. You can probably. Don't think about it too much.
I'm thinking about it. I feel like it's not the same logic.
Jesus probably never ate. It never says he does or he doesn't. It has him drinking wine, so he did drink wine. He was a Jew, so he, I imagine, was circumcised. I don't think it says anything about wine. Or, I'm sorry, about pork. He probably didn't. He hated pigs. He did send a bunch of demons into a herd of pigs and then sent it down a cliff. He did do that. So, you might be onto something there. Yeah, there are pros and cons to circumcision. At the end of the day, it's just kind of unnecessary. It's just kind of unnecessary genital mutilation. Yes, it's the same logic, Taylor. People are saying circumcision is good for the baby because it can prevent illness down the road, and using the same logic. Assuming that there's something that you can do to a newborn's area to stop breast development.
I say that young, I don't think you could. Like everything, it's ribs. They have ribs. Like.
So maybe as soon as
they can't.
As soon as the breast development starts, chop them off. We can play
Okay,
with
I
it.
really don't
we
think
can,
they're
we can
born with
we can play with it a little bit.
something there that can just be cut.
We can play with the
That's my thoughts.
we can play with the analogy a little bit. The demons chose to go into the pigs. They did, and he let them, and then he drove it off of a cliff. Show me where Jesus himself said, I drink wine. Did he not drink wine at the Last Supper?
He turned the water into wine.
He did do that. I mean, he was around wine here and there throughout the Gospels, but pretty sure he drank wine at the Last Supper. What if God, wishing to show his wrath and make known his power, has endured with much patience the vessels or wrath made for destruction? All prophets are circumcised from Adam as to Muhammad saw who was Allah, final and last prophet and messenger of Allah. Where does it say Adam was circumcised? And in the wedding at Cana. He turned water into wine at the wedding in Cana, but I don't know if it actually says that he drank it. But he probably drank. Wine was just kind of more common to drinks. Like, he probably did. Even before, he probably did a number of times in his life. Jesus Christ is Lord, if you say so. When did his mom tell him not to drink alcohol? I assume you're quoting the Quran. I assume you're looking at the Quran, which we're not exactly talking about, because the Quran really kind of grabs and does this with the story in the Bible. Just fucking, I don't even know what the words for that would be, but that's what it does. Not only Quran, but okay. What about the Bible? That's what we're talking about right now. When does Mary tell him not to drink? Still waiting for the next season of The Chosen to come out. I don't know if any of you have watched that show, The Chosen. I actually like it. I have to turn off my analytical brain and just watch it as a story. I think they did a really good job. They're not really following the Bible. They're not pulling things directly out of their ass, but they're not really following the Bible, which is probably what is saving it. And is also why I need to turn off my analytical brain. Because one, I don't think the gospel accounts are good. I don't think Jesus is a good being. I don't think the Bible is a good story. So I don't like it anyway. And then two, the show doesn't follow the Bible. So I have to turn off all of my analytical brain and just enjoy it as a story, as presented. Like, and rooting for like Jesus and everyone as like the protagonists. Like, I sat there and cheered when he first showed up in The Chosen. It's well done. It was a well done, thing. Jesus did drink at the Last Supper, and also, I think in Luke, he is accused of drinking too much, which wouldn't make sense if he didn't drink at all. Also, there are Jewish rituals that use wine. Yeah, it was pretty common. Who invented circumcision? That's a good question. The Quran is even worse than the Bible, which is a high bar at the very least. Jesus didn't take a child wife. He didn't take a child wife. I would also like to know what PBUH means. He does keep using it. It's intentional at this point. Like, in like almost all of his things, he's putting it. The king person. Oh, peace be upon him. That makes sense. It does make sense. That's a good abbreviation to like put it in. Because in Islam, you're supposed to put that in when you're talking about certain characters. So it's better to abbreviate it than have to spell out the whole thing. Yeah, according to Islam, you should always say that when you're talking about important people. Like the Prophet and Jesus and Allah. With that, I think I will end the live stream there. I think that'll be the end of the live stream. Thank you all for hanging out with me. It was a good little chat live. I liked it. Nice, chill little live. Always appreciative for anyone willing to stop by and hang out, or even give me like a second of their day. I'm a random nobody on the internet. Nobody deserves me. Nobody, I don't deserve anyone's attention or anything. I'm still pissed about the circumcision talk. It's a fucked up thing. I'll give it to you. Thank you so much for being here, for the views, likes, just whatever, just being here. It's greatly appreciated. I usually go live every Tuesday night at around 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Try to squeeze in extra live streams throughout the week if I have time. And yeah, I think I'll go ahead and head out. So thank you all so much for being here, truly. I'll see you all later. Have you moved the step stool? Yes. Have a good night, day, whenever you're watching this. Bye.